You're listening to Wordslinger Podcast, episode 147, Freewriting with Adam Leeb. This episode of the Wordslinger Podcast is brought to you by Draft to Digital. Convert your manuscript, distribute it online, and get support the whole way at drafttodigital.com.
It's the Wordslinger Podcast, where story matters. Build your brand, write your book, redefine who you are. It's all about the story here. What's yours? Now, here's the guy who invented pants optional, Kevin Tomlinson, the Wordslinger.
Wordslinger.
Hey, this is Kevin Tomlinson, the Wordslinger, and I'm happy to be here today. Not that anything was going to necessarily prevent me from being here today. I wasn't dying or anything. We had some, as some of you know, we moved into a new apartment in Sugarland, Texas. We love it. It's an amazing place. It's an amazing area. We've lived in this area before. In fact, we lived just next door to this place only a couple of years ago, just before we got on the road full time for a year. And so we really enjoy the neighborhood. We're close to family. We had an incident. So I believe it was Wednesday night after Kara and I had had some dinner and we were going to watch a little TV. We kept noticing water on the floor, and we couldn't figure out how I, because of course it has to be me, how I had managed to spill water on the floor. And then I took a step and saw water actually bubble up from under the laminate floor. Because, you have those fancy, these days laminate floors are they look like wood floors. So water was coming up between the seams of a board, quote unquote. So we had to call emergency maintenance, and then all day yesterday they were here cutting into the kitchen island and cutting into the floor and fixing a very sizable crack that none of us can figure out how it got there. So anyway, that's been my day, my week. And it's been fine as far as other work, but as far as audio recording and video recording, that was out. So I wasn't able to record this episode until today, Friday, which, is not entirely unusual for me. But if you've been listening over the past few months, I've really struggled. I've really tried to keep myself on recording in advance, at least a few days in advance, so that I could, have time to produce the episode and not have to stress over getting it all done in one day. Because now with the video component, it's actually quite a bit of a chore to get everything produced. But anyway, that's what's going on in Kevin's personal life right now. It's fixed. Now we just got to have the guys are going to come in and fix all the sheetrock and fix the floors and do some painting, and a cleaning crew is going to come in. It's a whole big deal. It's a whole big thing. But all that said, I got to say, I'm so grateful for the way it turned out. These guys they were very professional. They were very courteous. They kept things light. They, took great care of our stuff. They were careful to, without me prompting them or asking them, they were careful to put plastic over our furniture while they were working with the sheetrock and everything. They've checked back frequently. So that's a great experience. That's the kind of customer experience you want, where people understand that you've made an investment, and they understand that you made that investment based on the way things were presented to you, and they want to help you get it back to right. So that's there's a lesson to be learned there. For us as authors, we should be thinking about our readers' experience with our work. And if there is a problem, if they encounter a problem and they let us know about that problem, we should treat them the same way. They made an investment. Maybe it was only a few bucks financially, but it was a great deal of time to read our work. And further, they made an investment in caring enough to reach out and tell us that they found a problem, or they found a typo, or they had trouble downloading the book. There's all kinds of things that could go wrong in the the writer to reader spectrum. And I think it's up to us to care enough about our readers and about our work to do our best and to take care of things. So that's it. That's all I wanted to say. I didn't even necessarily start this off wanting to make it a life lesson, but everything can be a learning moment. Now today I'm talking to Adam Leeb. Adam Leeb he's the co-founder of Astrohaus, and if you haven't heard of this, they are the guys who make that really cool retro-looking typewriter. It's like the ultimate typewriter. It's like a word processor kind of thing. It's a all-in-one. You can carry it with you instead of a laptop. It has some limited Wi-Fi access so that it can upload your stuff to like Dropbox or whatever. But it's just a writing tool, and it's a completely self-contained writing tool, and it looks cool. What's funny about this is one of the founders of Draft Digital is an author, and he I let him try this out for a couple of weeks. Aaron Pogue, by the way, if you want to go check out his books, please do go buy his books. But I let him check this thing out for a week or two, and he liked it. He really did like it. Except he didn't like how much attention he got when he would use it in public. So it kind of, he didn't like the fact that people kept coming up to him and asking him about it and asking him what it was and that sort of thing. Too showy for him. So I don't have that issue. I want to make my stuff look cool so that when I'm out, people do talk to me because I can sell them books. But also anything but the writing, right? So anyway, that's neither here nor there. I'm sure, Adam, if you're listening, I'm sorry I went off on a tangent there, but we're going to talk to Adam about the Freewrite and about the business, about there's some insights here you're going to really enjoy. So stay tuned for that, and of course, stick around after. I've had some people tell me they are enjoying the news segments, and I'm going to put some thought into that. The news segments are kind of relatively new. Actually, I added them mostly for the video version of the podcast, and then just sort of rolled them over into the audio version. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. But if you're enjoying that, if there's anything about the show that you really like, a feature that you really like, let me know. Go to wordslingerpodcast.com, hit contact, and let me know. You can also, of course, request features. I reserve the right to say no, but because this already takes enough work. So anyway, hope you're enjoying it, and stick around. Listen to this interview with Adam Leeb. Stick around afterwards for some news and other stuff, and I'll see you on the other side. Hey everybody, I occasionally I like to reach out to folks who are doing something kind of cool and incredible. And if you've listened for a while, you know that's true. Today, I'm actually talking to Adam Leeb. He's the co-founder of Astrohaus, and that may sound familiar to you, especially if you've been kind of tooling around the internet. And we authors, we do that. They're the makers of the Freewrite, and if you don't know what that is, we're going to get into some details on that thing. But it is probably one of the coolest looking little word. I don't know if how do you classify this, Adam? Is it a word processor? Is it just a writing tool? What do you want to call it?
Well, we struggle with that ourselves, but we call it a smart typewriter, or probably the best words for it are distraction-free writing tool.
Okay, I will go with your marketing slang for it. It is it's got a very sort of vintage typewriter look, which is what I think attracts a lot of us. Very focused writing environment kind of thing, and that's becoming increasingly important these days. I literally just posted for Drafted Digital's blog this morning. It'll go live probably in a couple of days, but a whole article about writing mobile, writing from anywhere, and I'm using my phone now for that sort of thing. But there are a lot of distractions that come with that. So you guys have this very cool, very well crafted tool. I haven't gotten to lay my hands on one personally yet. I've seen them in the wild though, so I'm very impressed by this thing, man. What was sort of the impetus behind the creation of the Freewrite?
Thanks, I appreciate it. Actually, I brought one as well, so I'll just do a
Cool.
quick close
Excellent.
up.
Yes. For the listeners, I'll just You're just going to have to look at the post.
Yeah, it helps to see it because every time I try to explain it to people without them having any kind of visual reference, it's very confusing. But once you see it, it kind of comes together very quickly.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, so the idea is that we sort of had this vision for a distraction-free writing tool based off of really the modern distraction-free writing software that authors are using. So
Right.
you can kind of look at the Freewrite and think, well, are we trying to just make, catch onto this nostalgia of typewriters? But really, it was trying to take this really simplistic, distraction-free software experience that writers are loving, and then matching that with some modern hardware that is just better for writing, like e-ink screen and the mechanical keyboard, which, these are the things that people are staring at and using. So why not give writers the best possible, hardware experience?
Yeah, there's a popular trend right now. I see these a lot, especially at conferences. Writers who are using, I don't know, I don't think this is a competitor because I don't think they make this thing anymore. The Neo Alpha Smart, a little portable keyboard,
Yeah,
which is an interesting idea. Except it's basically just a keyboard with a really large buffer.
right.
But you guys have some functionality and storage built into your device, though. And it's
Yeah,
much.
look, it's not really a competitor. I mean,
I
it's
didn't think so.
yeah. I mean, first of all, the company's not in business, so we're dealing with old stock, used stock, and I think it's funny because when we first launched the product, or really it was a project before it was a product, and people are like, "Oh, have you heard of these things?" And it's like, "Yeah, we did our research," but the Alpha Smart was really designed for the school setting,
Yeah.
and they had a completely different set of needs than the modern writer, and that product did well for them for a long time, but they didn't even really try to kind of keep up to date. The latest operating system on an Alpha Smart is a Palm, Palm Pilot, basically.
Right.
So, it's really hard to try and get a modern, person that's used to, iOS or Android to be using Palm.
Right.
Uh, it's just there's too much of a leap there. And so, again, like it's fine, and you can get them for really cheap on the secondhand market. For people that are really serious and want to, have some of these modern conveniences, like having things sync to the cloud, which you can't do with an Alpha Smart. That's kind of where the Freeride fits in. And of course, the keyboard is completely different. And I think that's one thing that our customers, I think, truly love. I mean, it's just a very different typing experience with having full size keys and the mechanical keyboard, the key
Right.
switch. That's a big difference.
I mean, it does take me back to, the early days for me as a writer. And, I learned to type on an IBM Selectric, one of those big blue electric typewriters, which were much more, much meatier,
Oh, yeah.
much hardier. And then there were the mechanical keyboards, the beige box mechanical keyboards and that sort of thing. Not so much nostalgia there, but, what you guys have built is kind of cool. There's a, there's this thing about writers, we want to be efficient, but we also want to look cool doing it. And I think you guys are kind of tapping into that with this sort of nostalgia feel of it. But you're saying that was almost a side effect of it then, or was
Yeah,
it?
the design kind of came full circle. I think that we obviously were influenced by the aesthetics of a typewriter, but we also tried to have some discipline in terms of not including things that would have just been like bells and whistles, or
Yeah.
some kind of like skeuomorphism for typewriters. Like we don't have the carriage return bell or that kind of like lever type of thing, because there's just no need for it, in a modern writing system.
Right.
So it's kind of like this blend where I call it like retro futuristic. It takes some of this design language from typewriters, but also sort of blends it with modern times. And it's hard to really place the design. And, it's funny because a lot of our customers, they like writing in coffee shops, but they find it challenging because people will constantly ask them what it is.
I
And so,
would, I would imagine that's true.
yeah, maybe we shot ourselves in the foot on that one.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would definitely imagine that's true because I remember actually when the iPad first came out, and I had a unique case that allowed me to. It had a keyboard and everything built into it, and it was
Right.
unique at the time. And I was getting very little writing done.
Right. Yeah,
Right.
that makes sense.
So okay, and I like so it's an e-ink display, which I find kind of interesting because I didn't think that could update and refresh quickly enough for that kind of writing. But you guys have clearly figured that out. Was there what were some of the technical challenges of this thing?
Yeah, the e-ink display has a lot of technical challenges. I mean, there's a reason that you don't see them in so many different types of products. And it's funny because when we had launched the Kickstarter, we had kind of gone into this thing, first of all, we're not writers, admittedly. I'm a mechanical engineer. Both my partner and I, neither of us are electrical engineers. So,
Right.
beyond the design for writing purposes, we also had to figure out, how are we going to make this thing? And so the e-ink definitely brought a big challenge. E-ink is actually the company. It's not even the technology. It's a company that invented this technology, and they sort of have all of the patents around it. So if you want this type of technology legally, then you have to go through them, and they have a reputation of being historically not that easy to work with, especially for small people. They just don't work with small companies. We were hearing that you had to order 1 million units at a time. And so we're not quite there. And we definitely weren't, that confident at the beginning. So, and along with that, just working with it, there's a lot of technical challenges to get it to work. It's obviously not as prevalent as traditional LCD technology. And so, there's a much more limited ecosystem for it to make it work and control it. But, we did it the right way. We use a similar controller that is tried and true in the ebook market. And we're able to get really good refresh rates. And, some people, are concerned about whether the refresh rate is fast enough, but I think it really fits in again into this writing methodology where you're supposed to be drafting. And, a lot of reviewers have commented on this, that you sort of just ignore it and you just keep writing. And it actually works out pretty well. And I think it also is part of the reason why we haven't done a full-blown editor on the machine, because it's not the best for trying to replicate a PC or having a full PC experience or Mac experience where you're trying to drag things around and make quick changes and go up and down, and that's definitely challenging for e-ink. So we wanted to try and match the use case with what the actual product can do.
Right.
And I think it works. It's such a great technology. I mean, you can write outside. I mean, part of the reason that this thing even exists is that both my business partner, and I are sort of obsessed with the Kindle.
Okay.
It's so great. We love those things. You can take a huge fat stack of books with you on something that's, a 1/4 of an inch thick or, a centimeter thick. And it's so great to read on. And so I think we really appreciated the technology just from what the Kindle has done with it, and thought it would be a great place to, you could try it again and put that technology into a writing tool.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's like it's like the Kindle is the back end, and what you guys have built is the front end of that whole process.
Yeah, the Kindle is like, it's an e-reader, so we kind of joke around. It's like, oh well, ours is an e-writer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that term doesn't get bandied about more.
Yeah, it hasn't caught on yet.
Yes. Well, we'll work on that, man. Everybody listening right now, it's an e-writer. You were looking for the language. No, I don't know, man. I kind of like the what kind of typewriter?
Smart typewriter?
Smart typewriter? Is that how you refer to it? Okay.
It's like I have such a hard time with it because
I like that actually.
Yeah, see, I think it connects well with people. I just don't like calling it a typewriter because people have very strong feelings, positive or negative, about it. one interesting thing is that we found, sort of surprisingly, that younger folks actually connect better, and sort of like in the millennials generation,
Right.
because they've never seen, they've never really had an experience with a typewriter, whereas people that grew up using typewriters sort of hate them and remember the clunky experiences that they had. And so,
Right.
we're constantly sort of battling this thing, but, whatever works.
You gotta produce for the crowd that's coming in, not the crowd that's going out, man.
That's right.
So, all right. What's really curious to me, you mentioned this briefly. You had said that you're not a writer, your partner's not a writer. I find that fascinating. So, why a smart typewriter then? Why a writing tool? What made you decide that this is the product we're going to put ourselves behind?
It's a good question. So I think we're both, the things that we do have in common and that we try to use to them, as much as possible, is sort of, we both have a real passion for sort of process and being productive. And, I say we're both not writers, but in all honesty, Patrick, my business partner, he used to write a lot of essays. So he's not a professional writer, but he appreciated the writing experience and really enjoyed writing. And so this whole thing got started because of a conversation about distraction-free writing software that he was using and explaining to me, and me being the dodo engineer sort of was kind of flabbergasted that this was even a thing. And so, but it makes complete sense to me because, the more I got into it, well, first of all, I understand that people need to create an environment for success, whatever you're doing. If you are working in some kind of workshop, you want to make sure that your space is clean and you want to have good lighting and all these things. If you're a writer, and we've heard this from every writer we've ever talked to, is that you have to have some sort of environment that helps you focus. And, every writer has their own sort of process. And I think that's something that I've started to understand talking to a lot of writers, is that every writer has a way for them to get focused, whether they have a specific type of coffee that they drink, or they write in a closet, or they write, on an old Word, DOS machine with WordStar, like George R.R. Martin.
I was going to bring him up. Yeah, I just mentioned him today.
Right. Everybody has their thing, and and it makes good sense too, because I think, and even though I'm not a writer, I can appreciate this idea that, the crux of the problem with writing is that it's sort of getting into that world that you're trying to create and staying there, especially for creative writing. But even for nonfiction writing, I think, that's it's still a huge problem. It's not so much, the grammar and finding the right word, all that stuff can kind of be massaged out later, but the actual storytelling, that really depends on being focused and being really in that world that you're creating. And so it just, all that kind of stuff just kind of made sense to me. And I thought, here we had this idea, we came up with it, in one conversation. I could visualize what it would look like. And I thought it was interesting enough and timely enough that people would be interested. And that was really as much as it was. And, there were some other like life things that were going on that just made sense for me to work on it, for us to work on it. Those always are really important, just the timing of when these things come about. But honestly, as soon as we put the prototype together, and we did that very quickly, people started going pretty crazy. So we didn't have a lot of time to even think about, well, should we keep working on this? Because people were just kind of hammering our inbox.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, the setup of this thing is you use this for the writing, and then you would do your editing and everything else, I guess, on a laptop or whatever, right? So that it kind of necessitates having both. I mean, so as far as like the price point goes, like do you guys, a lot of will be authors, which is what I call people getting into this game. They have limited budgets. So, so I kind of wanted to talk about like how you came to the price point here. Well, I'm trying to kind of skirt around it because I don't want to imply that it's so expensive it's just not worth it. I want to imply that it is an investment, And I think it's a good investment if you need the focused writing. But in light of the fact that you also need a computer to do the editing, I'm just wondering how you guys came to that.
Yeah, no worries. I stopped getting talking about price a long time ago.
It's touchy, man. I never know how to bring up price when I'm talking to people. So
Yeah, no, it's fine. I think, it is, it's a real thing. And, people have budgets, and I understand that. I think it's really very simple, and it's, people think we have much more nefarious plans, and like gouging customers or some crazy thing. But like, we have a cost of goods sold. We have like a bill of materials that have a specific cost, and we basically try to make some margin on that. and do that in a way that doesn't make people totally off put from the product, because typically consumer electronics are typically priced 4 times is sort of a rough metric of how much it costs to build.
Right.
And so I'll tell you that we're not even there. So, from a metric standpoint, we are underpricing it, but again, we're selling direct. So, that's basically the only reason that we've been able to price it at where it is. We definitely made some decisions with this product to try and keep things, as high quality as possible. I mean, it's all name brand components. There's ways to bring the price down, and we certainly thought about it, and we want to maybe do that in a future iteration, but it's not going to be for this product. It's going to be something else that fills a similar need, if that makes sense.
Right. No, that makes perfect sense, man. I've worked in this industry for a while. I know where you're coming from.
and look, I think, it's sort of a safe assumption that every writer already has some sort of computer, whether it's a tablet or a laptop or a desktop. And so we're not trying to say like, oh, you need to get rid of your laptop, or, this should be your next laptop purchase, right?
Right.
Similarly, I think, a lot of writers do buy iPads for their writing practice, and those aren't cheap either. So
yeah, it's interesting because they'll pay a pretty hefty price tag for the iPad, and then they'll turn off all the features so that they can do the focused writing.
Right. Or how many people are buying, $2,000 laptops just to go on Facebook, which is fine. Everyone should do their own thing. Our pricing is really just based on the cost of the product, and, trying to be reasonable. I think, the most important thing for us is that it's useful enough for people that buy it, and that it actually does its job. And so, if I could figure out a way for it to be 4 times as useful and only twice as expensive, I probably would make that product, but I don't know. I don't even know what I would do. Yeah. So, I think for us, people have written millions of words on these things. And if a writer actually does incorporate it into their practice and are seeing sort of the productivity gains, then it's well worth it for them. So, it's just a balance there. And I hope that, people give it a shot, I guess.
Yeah. So, okay. If you can't answer this, I understand. Okay. So who's the most famous user you have for the product?
I don't.
Bearing in mind that I haven't started using it yet. We'll start from there.
Yes. We're waiting for you to receive the Freewrite. We've had some pretty famous people. I'll actually. It's a good question.
Man, you should know this. This is marketing 101, man.
Yeah, I don't know. See, I'm not sure who. I don't know if I should really talk about it. I mean, there are some very A-list people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right. Well, I'm not going to push you on it.
I'd say look on Twitter.
On Twitter.
Yeah. I mean,
Dana hashtag.
Dana Schwartz, who is the guy in your MFA Twitter, which is a very funny Twitter account. She bought one and loves it and has tweeted about it quite a bit.
I go to a lot of conferences, and so I get a chance to meet a lot of authors from all over the world, and I'm starting to see this thing show up. It's slowly creeping in, like it's entering the ecosystem. And I think rightly so, because there is this. It's part of it is, I think, the nostalgia of it. There's a nostalgic feel to it. And a lot of us became writers because we, connected with that vibe, right? The focused writing aspect of it, I think, is helpful, but I kind of wonder, like, do you hear from people like that? Is that the primary reason people buy it, or is it something else?
It's hard to say. I don't know. I think it's a mix, right? I think there's people that are very aspirational, and they've had that book on their mind and think this might be the tool for them. But those are obviously, like, most of the time those aren't going to be like our best customers, because you still have to have motivation, right? I think then there are a lot of folks that sort of already have some type of distraction-free elements into their writing process, and I think those are really the people that take to it really well. Whether they, a lot of writers will write longhand first and then edit on their computer, or they'll maybe write on their tablet, or they have already some sort of separation between the drafting and editing process. And it's actually a lot of people, and those people, I think, are finding it very useful, just because, if you wanted to write on a typewriter, a lot of people we talk to just don't do it because they know they're going to have to retype it later.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so, for those people, this is like a perfect thing. They don't have to retype it. It's literally just sitting in Dropbox.
That's what I'm thinking, man. I mean, and what format does it save it in?
It saves as a docx. So, which
really?
is pretty cool. Yeah. So it's already set up for Markdown, and I'm not sure if you use Markdown. Yeah. So, even dummies like me, I can just put like stars around words, and they'll be italicized, and it'll be saved fully formatted in a docx, so that I can open it in Word, and it's there. And same thing, if you sync it to Google Drive, it's saved fully formatted as well. So it's pretty fast. I mean, once you have this process in, I mean, you can have a fully formatted document, and it's honestly, if you learn how to use it, it's a lot faster than doing.
There's that. I'm telling you, man. There's this line, like you're on one side or the other. You're either on the side where you're like, Markdown's a cool way to do formatting, and then there's the other side. It's like torches and pitchforks. I mentioned that because I interviewed the one of the founders of Ulysses, which is a writing app, and they rely heavily on Markdown, and it just annoys some people, and it's just the way it is. But let me ask you this: would I be able to use like shortcut keys? Like if I wanted to italicize, could I hit Control I or something and shortcut it, or do I have to actually type in the asterisk and that sort of thing?
You have to type in the asterisk, because it actually, so on the Freewrite itself, it doesn't show it rendered, if that makes sense. It's just going to show the plain text with the asterisk. And we've talked about doing some like render, there's like a preview key or something, but it's something that we've talked about and literally not a single person has asked for. So that's usually a good sign of us not wasting our time on it.
Right. That's cool,
people,
man.
Yeah, I think, with I don't actually get into any arguments with people about Markdown because I don't talk about it.
Right.
But my opinion is, like, Markdown seems so deep and sort of daunting if you start reading all the documentation. But even if you just know how to italicize, bold, and heading, like just the really, really basics,
right,
gets you 95% of the way.
That is all I ever did. I mean, you can go all kinds of directions with it, but all I ever did was the basic formatting stuff, and it worked out pretty well for me. So I don't use it now because I use a completely different app, but if I start playing around with this thing, I'm sure it'll all come back to me. It's pretty standardized, right?
Yeah, it's really simple. I mean, you almost don't even have to think about it. You know, you use a hashtag to make a heading, use a dot or a star on a new line to do a list. I mean, it's sort of like if you imagine how would you have written this? You know, it's
Yeah.
pretty much there.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I can get behind that. I we'll see. We'll see how many emails I get because people like to be very vocal about this stuff,
What
especially
did they say? They say that it shouldn't exist or something.
there. I have literally gotten people forward me the same like 3 articles that are floating around online all the time to tell me. One of them is titled "Markdown should not exist," and here's why. Another one. I mean, they're all everyone's galvanized. Everyone wants to be galvanized over it.
Wow. Okay.
Whatever, man. I mean, you don't have to use the very cool smart typewriter if you can't stand Markdown. What I would say though is just use it to get your writing down without any formatting, because the formatting is kind of a distraction on its own as well. So I would say just concentrate on doing the writing, and then you can come back and do formatting after the fact. Like, why do
Absolutely.
you?
Yeah.
I mean, go ahead. I'm sorry.
We don't we actually don't even really tell people that, like, there's no option to have it do markdown formatting. So it's really just for people that know that it exists, which is not
Excellent.
many people. And so, you know, I bet most of our customers, I don't have any data on this, but I would say that most of them don't use any form markdown.
Yeah, yeah. What about things like scene breaks? Would you just put like the 3 asterisks in there, or would that screw around with the markdown? Can you do that?
I don't know.
Okay.
Don't know. I mean, we use a specific, markdown parser.
Yeah.
So if it's working in most other markdown situations, it's probably going to work on ours.
Right.
But the markdown formatting language is getting pretty long.
Yeah.
I haven't honestly kept up with every single one.
But it works. Whatever. I
It
mean,
works. Yeah.
yeah. That's cool. Yeah, I'm really impressed that it exports as a docx file, because that makes it basically makes it accessible to just about any word processing software out there, including, by the way, I'm going to plug my company now, because Draft Digital will take that docx file and convert it to an ebook. So you could actually, if you didn't have a bunch of fancy formatting that you needed to do, you could actually just spit that right out into a book if you
Yeah,
wanted to.
and it'll also save. You can export it as a text file, and we also have sort of a secondary option where there's a send button on the keyboard, and if
Hmm.
you click the send button, it will send the document that you're currently working on as a text and a PDF to your inbox.
Oh, very
So
cool.
an easy way to kind of just like get the document out.
Yeah, yeah,
You don't want to dig through Dropbox, or you're on your phone or something like that, or you want to
yeah.
forward it to somebody.
So it syncs with Dropbox and Google Drive. Does it sync with any other cloud services?
And Evernote.
Evernote. Yeah,
Yeah.
I kind of miss Evernote sometimes. I haven't. I kind of migrated away from Evernote, but that was my go-to everything software for a long time.
Yeah. I love Evernote, but I'm sort of a late adopter on it. And I think part of the reason was that I think it did too much. And I sort of was always a little nervous about it. And then once I realized that I could just use it for note taking and
Mhm.
nothing else, then I started using it,
Right,
which is funny.
right. Yeah.
It's fine.
So not necessarily an Evernote endorsement, but at least we know you guys work with it. That's cool.
Yeah, and some people love it. So it's a good way to organize stuff. Whereas Dropbox, it's not really meant for a lot of obviously it'll store all your documents, but it's not meant to like organize thoughts or something like that.
Right. Yeah. So there are okay. I'm just sort of all around impressed by the product, because I'm a geek. I mean, I like toys, so every time something new comes out, I want to try it and play with it. I've seen this floating around for quite a while now, though. When did you guys first release?
So the Kickstarter was almost exactly 3 years ago,
Oh, okay, all right.
and it
Seems
wasn't
longer.
It didn't exist much before that. It really only existed for basically since October. So it was like 2 months, um, lead up into the Kickstarter. We got things going pretty quickly because we got a lot of buzz and wanted to see what we could do with it.
Yeah.
So we didn't have a long gestation period. It was pretty much as soon as we put the prototype online and people started getting interested, we tried to get our act together to launch the Kickstarter, and then here we are 3 years later.
Right, right. So, what's kind of on the board coming up? Or you may not be able to share this, and that's cool too. But you got some interesting ideas going forward. Maybe new
Yeah.
development for it.
Yeah, I mean, we're constantly sort of working on it. So we actually just announced that we have launched our second generation Freewrite.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'd actually been kind of quietly selling them as just part of the Freewrite sales for the last couple months. And the big changes are that we've sort of doubled the real life battery life, the real time battery life. So the battery is much larger, and we've also done some improvements on the energy draw of the keyboard. So, the first generation, it works great, but we didn't get the battery life that we were really hoping for.
Right.
So we put a bigger battery in there. We did some other optimizations, and now it's about 2 times the original. And that's for like real working conditions, which is really great. So we're calling it our second gen product. Everything mechanically is the same. It still works, with Postbox, which is our backend software, which we haven't talked about, but that's sort of like our own cloud service that, so I think of it like an archive of your documents and also manages your device.
Okay.
And so we've done that. We're going to have a pretty interesting announcement coming out, I think, in the next week or two. And we've got a bunch of things on the horizon that we're pretty excited about.
Very cool. Very cool.
Hardware side, I'll say one more thing on the software. We've been working for quite a while on a new firmware update. So we do send out firmware updates over the air, which is pretty cool. And we have a new firmware update coming out that will, just make everything more robust and add some features. And that's sort of been a while coming. It's always a major process to send out a firmware update. We need to make sure everything works and documents are syncing and people are super happy. So, but we're on pace for that. And that'll work for all the Freewrites. So not just the new ones, it'll work for the old ones as well.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right, cool, man. I'll be on the lookout. Where can people find you and your stuff? I mean, where can people find out more about the Freewrite?
So Freewrite is at getfreewrite.com, and all the information is there. We obviously sell the new second generation Freewrite. We have some accessories. We just ran a big promo for Cyber Monday and Black Friday. We'll probably be doing some more stuff over the holidays. That went really well. We sell some additional keycaps as well. So we are seeing a lot of international orders these days, which is really cool. But you can get French, German, and Spanish keycaps from our website. And we also have black keycaps. So we have a few different customization options. And then our corporate website is astrohaus.com as well.
Excellent. All right. And of course, everybody can find links to all of that in the show notes. Make sure you pull over and safely browse your phone or however you're listening to the show. Don't do that and drive, we ask. So, all right, Adam, man, I appreciate it. And thanks so much for being on the show and taking the time, man. I'm looking forward to playing with this thing.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Kevin. I really appreciate it. Yeah, you'll get a hands-on pretty soon.
All right. Well, you hang out, and everybody else, you are probably hearing the groovy music right now. You may hear some. We'll see you on the other side with some news and updates, and otherwise, I'll see you all next time. Isn't it kind of cool how I always know that groovy theme music is playing? And do you dance in place at will? I hope you do. The world needs more dancing. So, all right. we're on the other side, and I hope you enjoyed that interview. Now, there was a mention of getting $50 off if you are interested. I don't have specific details, so what I've been telling people to do is go to getfreewrite.com, hit their contact button, and say, I heard you on Kevin Tumlinson's Word Slinger podcast, and you mentioned $50 off of a free write. And this is a limited time, and we are talking to you right now, April 20th, 2018. I'm going to say you could probably get this deal for about 30 days, which means if it's past May 20th, 2018, you're probably not going to get it. But if you hit them up, I think there's a fair chance. If not, let me know, and we'll talk to Adam, and we'll see what happens. But hop over and check them out. Let them know you heard them on the show, and see if you can get your $50 off on your free write. It is a very cool little device. I played with it. I liked it. I think I just prefer the digital stuff a little better, but it was fun to play with it. Let me put it this way. I like the mechanical keyboard. I love that whole thing. But for me, I write on my iPad now, almost exclusively, unless I use I use the iPad, but when I'm in my home office, I do a lot of writing on my laptop. But I actually don't do my fiction writing on the laptop, even in my home office. I use my iPad and the smart keyboard for the iPad Pro, and that's how I do my writing. But I would love to have like a mechanical keyboard, and I can get one. I can get a Bluetooth mechanical keyboard or something, but I want it to be all retro cool, So anyway, the Freewrite is awesome. I did like it, and I did play around with it for a while. So, for a focused writing tool, I do recommend it. It's very cool, very very cool. And if you like to get some attention when you're out writing, pick it up. Now, we're gonna hop into the news segment here. Some really cool industry news this week, and not all of it is directly indie related, but some of it is sort of indie related at a glance. So let's take a look at that. And first up is Jeff Bezos reveals Amazon Prime has 100 million members, 100 million subscribers to Amazon Prime. In Amazon's annual shareholder letter, CEO Jeff Bezos gave the typical call for the company to live up to ever-rising customer expectations, in quotes, and touting Amazon's high standards at every level. That might be a little debatable, but the letter also contained some interesting news in the form of information that all the world has wondered about, at least at one time or another. Just how many subscribers does Amazon Prime actually have? And the number, as it turns out, is 100 million, meaning Amazon not only makes around $9.9 billion per year just on the subscription to that service, on subscriptions alone, because it's a minimum $99 per year subscription, and can go up to like $150 a year. If you pay monthly. Not only does that mean that Amazon is making $9.9 billion with a B per year, they're also making some heavy cheddar from the hundreds of millions of customers who are pre-vetted, pre-screened, primed, if you will, to buy, and who are using the service to make purchases. I use the service. I pay $99 a year. I have for since it emerged way back. I think it came out in like 2011. I went in and bought it. Actually, what was cool was I paid the $89 for it and was able to order the underlayment for my floor when I was putting a floor in our home for much cheaper than it was to buy it in like Lowe's or something like that. And because of the Amazon Prime, I got free shipping. So I had hundreds of these boxes of underlayment show up at my home, and I basically spent about a third of what I would spend buying it full retail. And so it saved me money there. Now, that's my story. That's one of my stories. And I also use Amazon Prime for Amazon Video, for other subscription services that are tied in with it. But for authors, there is a sort of, it's very much like Kindle Unlimited in some respects. You can get you can download a certain number of books for free through Amazon Prime. And that's handy. I mean, that's, not a typical use of the service. And I was kind of thinking and even sort of hoping that they would merge KU with Amazon Prime. You'd get full access, and that would be beneficial to authors participating in the Kindle Unlimited program, KDP Select. But this number of 100 million is just astounding. And what's interesting is that it's the first time that Bezos has actually come out and admitted numbers like this. Amazon loves to control their data. Any data coming in, any data going out, they like to have their hands all over it because they realize that data is the commodity. Data is what they sell. If you really get down to it, Amazon is a data company. They sell product and they make money from those products, but they use the sale of those products to fine-tune their algorithms, to fine-tune their data gathering and management, and which allows them to make even more money. So Amazon's a smart company. So all I can do, I don't know what any of this means. I don't know what to do with this knowledge now that I have it, but I'm impressed. Jeff, slow clap for you, sir. Slow clap for you. All right. Now moving on, and that is not the last time we will hear about Amazon in today's news. We hear about Amazon often in the news, especially in the publishing world. Ally is betting on blockchain. Now, if you've followed news about Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency, then you may have some vague knowledge of what Bitcoin and cryptocurrency mean. You might also have heard of blockchain. Okay, this is going to be a rough one, folks, because I'm going to admit I have not dug in deep enough to have an innate understanding of cryptocurrency or blockchain. I do get the concept. It hasn't held my interest enough until now, but I do find this idea intriguing. So Ally is embracing this, and essentially, all right, the idea, in the simplest terms I can think of, is blockchain is sort of a digital ledger for transactions made with cryptocurrency. And where this is going to be handy for you is that it shifts the way we deal with intellectual property and digital property online so that it becomes much more like physical property in a way. And the example I can give you, and I think I've got this right. If you know more about this and you hear flaws in my logic here, feel free to reach out and correct me because we can learn together. Here's how I see it, and here's how I think it's going to work for us. One of the ways. If you're using blockchain for basically it helps you own the digital fingerprint of your book, ebook, for example, treats it much more like a physical book. So if someone buys your book through Amazon, through your direct sales on your website, through anyone, there's information encrypted in it that identifies it as this book was sold to person X from person Y for X amount of dollars, whatever. You own it. It's yours if you purchase it. But I could take that book and I can read it, and then I could resell that book if I chose to, but I would not be able to hold on to a copy of that book. So it makes it much more like a physical book that way. Without going to some extremes, I would not be able to hold on to a copy of the book and then resell it, which means I couldn't resell another copy. And if I do somehow manage to do that, this information is embedded in there. It would alert you that this is happening. That's my understanding of that. Now, and I know there's gaps in that, and I didn't go into greater detail. I'm still learning about this myself. But where Ally is coming in, they've published a white paper, which you can download. If you go to wordslingerpodcast.com, you look at the notes. Sorry for this episode. You'll find a link. It's bit.ly bit.ly/147-blockchain. That will take you to the story for this. And you can get the white paper from that link as well, I believe. But Ally is calling this self-publishing 3.0, and they're looking at this as a way for authors to completely own the full chain of their book, of their intellectual property, so that the ownership, the income, the revenue, the royalties, everything starts with the author rather than starting with a giant like Amazon or elsewhere. And that could be good news for indie authors. It could be one of the more empowering movements that we've encountered since self-publishing started becoming such a juggernaut in the publishing industry. So I'm going to be watching this. I think I'm going to learn more about this now that I've got a reason to. I'm going other than the vague promise of riches, I'm going to start paying much more attention to this because I want to know how this works. So we'll learn together. As I learn, you'll learn. I will share with you what I learn, and vice versa. So I know for a fact that I don't have everything nailed down on my example or description of how blockchain works. But I'm doing my best so that we can all learn together. So check that out. Go to wordslingerpodcast.com. Click on the show notes for this episode. You can find that link. But it is bit.ly/147-blockchain. 147 is the episode number. So check that out. If you were interested in the previous story, by the way, it would be 147-Bezos. So go check that out. Now, third and final story of the day. Amazon wins first arbitration. Now, last week you heard me talk about this a little, or in the past couple of weeks you've heard me mention this a little. Amazon filed for arbitration back in September 2017 against at least 5 authors and businesses accused of violating Amazon's terms of service and essentially scamming the system to make quite a bit of money. Amazon has won the first of these arbitrations against a British business owner. Amazon has asked the court to enter the judgment in line with the January award issued by American Arbitration Association. Jake Drya, the UK business owner in question here, is ordered to pay damages after arbitration determined that he knowingly manipulated KDP, violating their terms of service. Dryan's business they were doing some crazy stuff, including publishing duplicates of books already published on the service, and creating bots that would increase their page read so that they could basically take advantage of Amazon's the KDP Select fund, the global fund, and the payout per page read. So I'm glad to see this is happening. All this stuff that Dryan was doing definitely violated the terms of service. He definitely deserves to be penalized for this financially. It's interesting that Amazon's going through arbitration for this stuff. It is part of their actual terms of service that they would seek arbitration before court filings. And now that they have this arbitration has awarded them whatever the amount is, now they can go and file in court to make sure that there's some legal document that says that Dryan's on the hook for this. So basically, arbitration creates the agreement. Dryan says, "Okay, I'm willing to pay this much." The arbitration is then complete. Their decision is agreed upon as final by both parties, and then they go to court just to file to make sure that legally all these things can be upheld. So it is interesting. I'm glad to see Amazon doing this. Amazon actually needs to start cracking down on this stuff. And I know, and let's not fool ourselves. Amazon is not doing this for the authors. This is not meant to be a salve for author woes. What this actually is Amazon is protecting its customers, because these scam artists that are out there, they're diluting the pool of good work. The books that are available for readers to pick up. There would be an uptick in reader disappointment if they keep purchasing a new book and discovering it's something they already have. That would be a problem. If they're purchasing books that are just complete garbage with garbage content, nonsense content, that's problematic. Now, these guys have set up systems where they don't necessarily need a customer to even purchase the book or download the book, because they're scamming it in other ways. They're scamming it with bots and that sort of thing. So they can put any garbage they want up there, because it's not about attracting readers. They don't even have to market this stuff. It's about literally just gaming the system, which is a violation of Amazon's terms of service. So it's good to see them cracking down on this. So that's it. Those are the news segments for this week. Let me know what you think of this stuff. Go to wordslingerpodcast.com, hit the contact button. Couple of things you can let me know while you're there. You can tell me if you're getting anything out of these news segments. Tell me what you're liking and what's working for you in the show. Suggest news stories if you've heard of something. I'm open to that. And let me know your feedback on any of the news stories you hear on the show. So this is just one segment, and I keep thinking about ways. I will improve the show over time. You know me, man. I've got the iterative process down. I love it, and I apply it to everything in my life. So you reach out and you let me know what you think. Now, this show, of course, is brought to you in part by Draft to Digital, where you can convert, publish, and distribute your books worldwide with support the whole way. If you don't mind, you can help me out if you go to drafttodigital.com/wordslinger to sign up for your account, and I get a little kickback. For a year, I get a kickback on any books you sell, and no money comes out of your pocket. I take 10% of Amazon's Draft to Digital's cut on your book. So Draft to Digital makes like a 15% cut. They make 10%. It comes out to about 15% of your royalty when you factor in the money that goes to the sales channel, and then I get 10% of that cut. So that Amazon's, I don't know why I keep saying Amazon. Draft to Digital is paying me 10% of each of your book sales, and you get to keep your entire royalty otherwise. Everything beyond the cut that Draft to Digital gets. See, the thing is, Amazon, it keeps coming up because I had 3 stories that didn't mention Amazon, so they're in my brain now. That's the way Amazon gets you. But go check out Draft to Digital. Of course, I'm the director of marketing. Of course, I'm going to say nice things about them, but don't take my word for it. Go Google it. Google Draft to Digital and customer support and see what comes up for you. Ask anybody who's published through us. You're going to find a lot of happy customers. Everything we do is free for you. Everything that we do for you is free. You can do ebook conversion. You can do worldwide distribution. You can convert your book for print. All that stuff's free. So go check it out. You're crazy not to. Okay, now you can also help this show out by subscribing to it on iTunes, Stitcher, anywhere that your fine podcasts are sold. You can also check the show out on YouTube if you prefer to watch your interviews. And or if you're a YouTube Red subscriber, of course, you can listen to the show with your phone screen off, that sort of thing. Some benefits there. So go check that out. Subscribe and share. I really appreciate it. Go find the show on iTunes and leave a review. That's where you can help me reach new readers and increase my discoverability. Leave a review, 4 or 5 stars, and tell people the things you love about the show. That will really help. And check out Wordslinger Press. This is new. I'm adding to it constantly. I'm hoping I'm going to have a lot more material over the course of the year. We got a couple of books up there now. But Wordslinger Press is where you're going to find books that are aimed at the indie author to help you build and grow your indie author business. It's really just a way for me to distill the stuff that I am putting out there and saying publicly or whatever, and putting it in a format that you can read on your Kindle or other ebook device. So I keep the prices pretty low on these books. You'll find them cheaper. You're going to find them cheaper on Wordslinger Press on the wordslingerpodcast.com than you will elsewhere. So go check that out. You can find them anywhere, but this is where you're going to find it's the cheapest. So, and I'm going to be making improvements to that too. I've had some complaints about the setup there. So I listen. I'm a good listener. I'm just, I I got to get around to it. All right, that's it. We're at a minute 4. I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up. I appreciate you tuning in for another week of the Wordslinger podcast. Lots of huge positive things happening in the world, in my world right now, and I know I'm going to see that happening in the world at large. I'm going to go out and I'm going to be the to paraphrase. I'm going to be the change I want to see in the world. That's not paraphrasing. I think I said exactly what was meant to be said, and I hope you will too. So take care of yourselves. God bless each of you. I'll see you all next week.